All right, welcome back. Episode 4 of Major League Baseball, Inside Major League Baseball. I am Connor, and my name is still Connor. Since last video, and it will continue to be. All right, let's get into it. We got to talk about the New York Mets. They have been, and it's not going to be hyperbolic. We don't know how this season is going to end, obviously, but given payroll, which they have the highest one in all of baseball, even higher than the Dodgers, higher than the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Phillies, name a team. When you're the highest, you're higher than every other team. Given the expectations, they were expected to win the division. They were favored to win the division amongst most sports books. Obviously make the playoffs and make a deep run. Maybe not beat the Dodgers, but lose to them respectfully in a competitive series in the National League Championship Series. They are currently 41-56. The only team that has a better record than them in the National League is the Colorado Rockies, in which they have been obviously one of the most putrid teams in the last decade. Them and the White Sox have been battling it out, but obviously the White Sox are in first place right now. So White Sox have cleared the Rockies. So when you're up there with payroll with the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, but you're down on the results on the field record-wise with the Rockies, something went awry. So let's go over it. What went awry?
And Simeon rockets one out to left field. Back goes Warnick. It's over his head and one hop to the wall. The end goes to third. He'll be held up there. He's going to run through the stop sign, and he's thrown out at the plate.
David Stearns took over this team, their general manager, after the 2023 season. In that 2024 season, they started off very poorly, but they ended up having one of the best records in baseball in the second half, and they made the playoffs, right? The OMG, Hawk Tua, all that shit portended phenomenal things, essentially, right? That all correlates to on-field success when you have those type of things happening off the field. Joking, obviously. But that wasn't, so they had tremendous success, and they obviously lost in the alluded to NLCS to those same Dodgers. But that wasn't David Stearns' team. Obviously, he didn't pick any of those players. He didn't impact the roster. It was the prior regime, obviously. And his intention, through all reports after that season, was to tear it down. He wanted to make his imprint on the team. He didn't like the concoction of the roster, even though it added a phenomenal second half. But he wanted to make his imprint on the team, which is understandable. I'm the GM. I'm going to make my team and let the results play on the field. If they're bad, then fire me. But you hired me to make decisions, and I wanted to make those decisions. So he wanted to jettison Pete Alonso, the beloved first baseman. And I know it's hyperbolic to use the word all and everyone, no one. However, I think it's applicable in this scenario to say that every New York Met fan loved Pete Alonso. He was just beloved. He looked like your everyday guy. If he was walking down the street, he didn't look like he was hitting 40 home runs playing first base for the New York Mets. But he was. He was homegrown, won Rookie of the Year, was constantly producing, posted every day. That was the most lovable part of him, in my opinion, as an outsider. I'm not a New York Met fan, but from what I'm reading, what I'm gleaning, what I'm looking at, they just love that he was playing every fucking day. So, Steve Cohen stepped in and said, no, we're not going to just let him go. I don't care what your plan is. You just got here. Fans love him. We had a phenomenal season. He had a phenomenal season. We're going to re-sign him. But it had stipulations to appease David Stearns, ostensibly. And it had an opt-out after the first year. And he opted out. So fast forward to last off-season. There was no chance, unless he was going to sign for a couple $1 million at Pete Alonso. And by all reports, Pete Alonso wanted to come back. If it was up to him, he would still be a New York Met. But David Stearns is now in charge of things. And I don't want to lambaste. It's easy to lambaste David Stearns right now, given the record, given some of the decisions that I'll highlight a little bit moving forward in the offseason. However, his rationale for not wanting to re-sign Pete Alonso is simple and understandable from just a coherent concoction of a major league roster, even given his exorbitant payroll that he has the ability to have. That was a weird sentence, but you understand what I'm saying. He has a lot of money because Steve Cohen is a trillionaire. Even with that, you still have some payroll limitations because of the luxury tax. It's an untenable situation, just like in the NBA with the second apron. It's not a cap, but it is a cap. You're paying an exorbitant price for every dollar. I believe, I don't for the exact percentage. I'm not going to make it up, but it's very high. You're paying way above market value. You're like essentially. I think the Dodgers last year, like 20% of what they were paying was just in the tax. So it's an untenable situation. Even if you're a trillionaire, you don't want to be giving money away. So you understand. So even with that, so there are payroll limitations even when you're paying $357 million on a team as the Mets are this season. So with that said, you don't want, from David Stern's logic, you don't want to be paying a lumbering first baseman who's not an additive on the base paths, not an additive defensively, although he's having a somewhat adequate season defensively this season. In totality, he's net negative on both of those. So I don't want to be paying for your production to decrease offensively. Say you're hitting just 220 with 25 home runs, 80 home runs. That's somewhat valuable player if you're not striking out a ton. But if you're adding value in other areas of the game, which you're not, and you're not on an exorbitant contract, which Pete Alonso would have been. So you understand it from David Stern's perspective. I don't want to pay you $5 for 155, which is what Pete got from the Orioles. The Orioles are desperate to augment their lineup to have protection for Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman. And they're on a finite window right now with Adley being a free agent after next season, and they wanted to go for it. So each team has their own logic, obviously. So you understand it from a prudent financial perspective why David Stearns was reticent to pay Pete Alonso. However, where the ire is completely justified from a fan's perspective is his replacement for Pete. He signed Jorge Polanco, who has a 47 OPS plus. For those that don't know, 100 is average. So 47, no bueno. 176 average, even for you caveman people, there you go, there's average. 176, not good. And negative .6 WAR. He's not hitting, not fielding. By the way, he was on the IL for 2 months, just got back. So, there's no justification for that. If you want to let Pete go, fine. Most disagree. I actually agree with it for what it's worth. I think he's going to pump out 50 bombs for the next couple of years and regress tremendously, and then he's going to be old. Doesn't, as I mentioned, doesn't provide value in any other aspect. Literally, not even contact. He never has a high average. So I get it. I don't want to be paying you $30 million a year to hit 220 with 20 and 80 for argument's sake. So I understand it. However, even obviously, I can't justify you're making David Stearns, you're making $10 million a year. You're on a contract of 5 years for $50 million, which can now bring some credence to why you act like a smug asshole in some of your interviews and why you always have this portrayal of I know better than you and I'm smarter than you. I have a bigger brain. I can't even reveal my logic to you because you wouldn't even understand it because I'm so much smarter than you and my intellectual state is just so much higher than everybody else. But when you sign Jorge Polanco to replace Pete Alonso, a guy that hit an iconic home run off Devin Williams in the last regular season game to make the playoffs in 2024, a guy that won Rookie of the Year, always fiddling in the MVP conversation, just a beloved New York Met. Let him go for nothing. They didn't trade him, mind you. That would have been more palatable. At least he recouped some assets. They let him go just for a comp pick to sign Jorge Polanco. That's unjustifiable. So strike one. Strike two is for Polanco's replacement to play first base while Polanco was on the IL was Mark Vientos. Obviously, he's been a staple New York Met for some reason for a few years. Wasn't Stearns' draft pick, so I can't pile on there. However, doesn't have to be on the team. You have autonomy there. He has a negative 1.4 WAR and a 77 OPS plus. A little bit better than Jorge Polanco, but still not good. Strike number two. Strike number three. Bo Bichette, which didn't directly. Bo Bichette was more of the replacement for Pete Alonso, although they don't play the same position, obviously. Bo's not a first baseman. But monetarily wise, that the money saved was allocated ostensibly to Bo. He's playing third base. Obviously, it's first time playing third base. He can't play shortstop because cornerstone franchise icon, Francisco Lindor, is playing shortstop. So, Bo, all right, supply the power, supply the offensive production we're missing from Pete. Can you do that? We're paying you a lot of money to do that. No. I'm going to have a 291 on base percentage and only at 10 home runs and be on the IL. Okay, great. Okay, strike three. Next one, Freddie Peralta. Come on, we need some arms. I know you. I was your GM in Milwaukee. Fastball Freddie, give us innings. I have an ERA around 3, hopefully a little below 3. You're in a walk year. Hella motivation. You're going to be great. Come on, stabilize this rotation. I didn't give up a ton. I gave up Brandon Sproat, who he himself was not having a tremendous season on the mound, but he's a prospect. Could change in the near future. Gave up Jet Williams, still a prospect. Not having a great year, but things can change. Prospects are fickle. Yada, yada, yada. All right. Another move by me, David Stearns, to cement this franchise and have my imprint. I'm making the moves that I want, to the dismay of all the fans. Really, all the fans. I don't care. I'm smarter than the fans. All right, Freddie, your chance. Other guys haven't worked out, but what about you? 4.68 ERA. Okay, awesome. By the way, and when you watch him, it's almost worse than that. When you watch him, I've watched him a couple times, and his strikeout rate is still very good, among the elite in all the game. But he's always in the 80s pitch count wise in the 5th inning. He even in his 1, 2, 3 innings, he gets behind guys 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, oh, claw back on the count, strike him out, great. But you just wasted 7 pitches on the backup catcher. He is maddening to watch, and I'm not a Met fan. He is maddening to watch, even when he's just five innings, 3 runs. That's what he's giving you this year with 7 strikeouts. He's, like I said, still a decent strikeout guy. All right, so we're at 4 strikes right now. Literally every single move. Now, I mean, it's not even arguable. There's not even. I guess Freddie. I don't want to parse palatable or respectable or average. I don't think a 4.68 is 8 ERAs. He's even average. That's like a 4 starter. So you can't even argue any of these numbers. They've all been putrid, decrepit, terrible. Use your adjective. Just a terrible display of general managing by David Stearns. Overall team-wise, before I get into some positives. Oh, by the way, not even to mention the Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien trade. I omitted it because they're both having terrible years. I can get on them for trading Brandon Nimmo for just Marcus Semien. The corpse of Marcus Semien. Semien is terrible. He's been on the IL as well. Terrible defensively. Can't hit anymore. Clearly just looks washed. He just looks slow as hell. Talk about lumbering with Pete Alonso. This guy is lumbering. So, but Brandon Nimmo's not having a good season either, and his logic predominantly was there's just a slice off 2 years of the contracts. Brandon Nimmo has a longer contract than Marcus, so I can get out of it earlier. So, whatever. I'm not going to quibble over that. They've both been terrible. It's been a net negative for both teams. But, so I won't even lump that in with these 4 other negatives. But it's certainly not a positive, that trade. With that said, they're 19th in ERA with a 4.33. They have a 1.34 whip, which is 21st. Guys on base every inning. Most of those guys are scoring. By the way, they're not hitting other than Soto. Lindor is not hitting either. He's a sub 700 OPS. So that's how we get to 41 and 56 with the second worst record in the National League, even though we have the highest payroll in all of baseball. The rotation fucking sucks. Every offseason move that David Stearns made, not saying it didn't pan out, is an understatement. So, with that said, there are some positives. Obviously, we can yell and scream. It's been a terrible season. They're going to finish 7. By the way, if they finish with 70 wins, I could make the. I'm not a history buff, But given payroll and expectations, this team was not expected to beat the Dodgers. Nobody's expected to beat the Dodgers. But they were expected to clear the Braves, clear the Phillies, win the division, make it to the NLCS, and then lose. They're not even going to have a 500 record with the highest payroll in all of baseball. If they finish the season 72-90, how can I not? I should go in the annals of history and look. I mean, you can't compare the 1984 Braves given the payrolls. I mean, how do I compare? How do I compare expectations and the monetary? How do I do that? I don't know, but just it's a fucking disaster of a season. It's obviously the most disappointing season. I mean, you can say the Padres are under 500. It pales in comparison to this. They're 41-56, and there's some bad teams in this league. Can't even beat them. So, all right, I digress. The positives: AJ Ewing, Carson Bench. Now, neither of them have an OPS of 800, but they're phenomenal defensively. No baseball gets past them in the outfield. They're going to be staples. They just are. They're wiry. They're flashy. They got some flair to them. They're fun to watch. They're a jolt of energy to a team that God knows they need a jolt of energy. They're gonna. I don't know. They're gonna be all stars. I don't know if they're gonna be superstars. Obviously, it's too young to tell. But even if they're not, they're gonna be damn good ball players. So obviously them two, with of course Juan Soto, which the back end of that deal is gonna look abominable. But for the time being, for the next couple of years, he has an OPS of 1,000 right now, even with everything going around him. The rumors with Francisco Lindor, that Lindor hates him, whatever. I don't want to get into that. But it just continues to rake. He slaps 4 good ABs on the opposing pitchers every game. He's a staple, obviously. One of the best hitters, if not the best hitter in the game. I'll give that to Yordan Alvarez with the season he's having right now, and he wasn't on the IL. But we can quibble over that at a later date and time. So AJ Ewing, Carson Bench, Juan Soto, boom. 3 great positives. Nolan McLean, I need water. I don't have a water right next to me, though, so I'm going to power through this. Nolan McLean. Now, most people thought he was going to be the next Jacob deGrom, like a legitimate ace for years to come. He's taken a little step back, not a little bit. A little bit. He still has a 3.4 ERA. He's given up a bunch of home runs, and his command is pretty erratic. But he still looks like a phenomenal pitcher. I don't know if I feel comfortable saying he's going to be Jacob deGrom or even an ace, but he's obviously a staple in the rotation, and he will be that. He's very, very durable as well. Throws tremendously hard. He's going to be a good pitcher. Probably 2, if I had to guess. Long term, I don't know if I see him being an ace, but that is still a tremendously valuable player to have on your roster, obviously. And those 3, AJ, Carson, and Nolan, still on rookie deals, still have 4 or more years. And the 2 outfielders, there are 4 more years left in Nolan, and Carson and AJ are both rookies. So half decade, you're going to have 3 immensely valuable players on your roster not making any money. Plus Juan Soto. 4 of your 26 players, yes, I'm extremely happy having them on my team. Now, for the trade deadline, what do we do? I think it's pretty simple. You trade Luka Weaver. There's reports that they're quibbling over that, undecided on that. Do they want to lock him up long term? I think that is a terrible decision to sign a reliever long term, even lock him up. Relievers are so fucking fickle. Luke Weaver had a terrible season last year with the Yankees. Phenomenal season year before. He was a bust as a starter with the Cardinals, which made him convert to a reliever. A reliever just had phenomenal years, terrible year. The fact that you even, I guess you got to think about and discuss everything aloud, but I'm not going to get mad at you for having a discussion about it, but I think it's unequivocal that you trade him. Recoup assets for him, especially in the seller's market that it is. There's not a lot, with the implementation of the third wild card, there are not a lot of teams that want to get, even the Red Sox, they were looking to offload everybody. They've won 7 in a row, and I believe 10 of 12. They're only 3 games under 500 now, 2 games out of a wild card spot. Are they not going to sell? I mean, if they don't sell, fuck. I mean, who the hell is going to sell? You got the Rockies, the bat. It's a seller's market. You're not going to have a lot of sellers. So you got to capitalize on that for the sellers, and the Mets are going to be definitive sellers. So you got to trade Luke Weaver, and he's a commodity, a reliever, high leverage reliever. He will go for a lot. You can replenish farm system. Another positive is they do have a top 10 farm system. It was depleted a little bit with the Freddie Peralta trade, but still very, very good farm system. So David is drafting well. So you can replenish that farm system even more. Maybe catapult yourself into a top 5 farm system. Who knows? Trade Freddie Peralta as well. Obviously, flip him. Even if you want to sign him, if you give him the most money in free agency, he's going to sign. It doesn't matter if you traded him. Cares. He's gonna take the most money. He's gonna want the most money, I would assume. Especially, maybe not. Maybe I don't know if he's enjoyed playing for New York. He's having by far his worst year, so maybe he wouldn't. I don't know, but it depends on the money. Whatever. Obviously, I don't know what his priorities are. I haven't talked to Freddie in the last couple of days. So, and that's really it. I mean, you could trade Lindor, but even that, I know. I don't want to get into the reports of him and Soto having beef, and Mike Francesa, a long-term radio voice, saying that it's worse than people think. It's very contentious, and Soto is just not giving Lindor the time of day. Lindor wants to befriend Soto, and Soto just doesn't care. He doesn't want to be a leader. He just wants to produce his 1,000 OPS and go the fuck home. So I don't want to get into that. But if you're going to, now is not the time to trade him. He was hurt for a prolonged stretch, a couple months almost, I believe. He has a sub 700 OPS. He's still on an exorbitant contract, still 5 years remaining after this season. I mean, just keep him. He's been a staple over the organization. Maybe in 4 years, I trade him. I keep him. I mean, my God, like, you can just trade everybody just because you're having a bad year. Some guys you just have to keep, and I would surmise he could bounce back. I mean, although he's had a perplexing year, he's had a bunch of mental lapses uncharacteristic of Francisco, specifically on defense, not knowing how many outs there were. So I don't know where his head's at. I don't know if he wants to stay. If he doesn't want to stay, obviously that's a different conversation that we can broach at a later date. If he wants to get out, then if he wants to get out, I think you abide by that and try to recoup the assets for him. Not relent and just take any deal, but if he doesn't want to be there, he doesn't want to be there. You don't want to have guys that don't want to be in your building. So, but asset-wise, that's really it. Freddie and Luke Weaver. I mean, you can trade Brett. You're not getting anything for Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos. Not getting anything for Bo Bichette, in my opinion. He's heated up a little bit lately, but he still is, as I read you the numbers, still is a sub 300 on base percentage. And he's got a player option, the unknown, CBA. Obviously, that's got to be prefaced and mentioned. We don't know what's going to happen next year, but I don't know. Those are really the only two assets. It is, but like I said, I don't want to get down again, get more negative. As I mentioned at the top, there are positives. As I mentioned, AJ Ewing, Carson Bench, Nolan McLean, top 10 farm system, obviously Juan Soto. The money, I can't omit that either as well. Obviously, the money, the financial wherewithal that Steve Cohen has to augment this roster, you can just fill so many holes so much more quicker when you have the money, the financial wherewithal that the Mets have, that Steve Cohen is willing to spend. He wants to win. Obviously, he doesn't know how to win, but he wants to win. That's positive. Every team doesn't have that. Even the Dodgers don't even have Steve Cohen's money. So, 4 guys out of the 26 man rosters, yes. I'm glad to have those. Top 10 farm system and money. You're 41-56. It's going to go down as one of the worst years. Could honestly be the worst year of all time, given payroll and given expectations. But even with that said, let bygones be bygones. Let the season wash away. Let's bounce back. They could. The reason why I mention all the positives, if it's the Rockies, they're not going to be able to bounce back either at all or definitely not as quickly because of their lack of resources and just they're the Rockies.